Okay, what's your next one?
PPE.
PPE. Alright, this one is done, another one that has a station. There's no patient contact with this one, and if you pay close attention, you will see that there are now critical steps on this one. Used to be there weren't any. Now there are. So what are your critical steps on this one?
Removing glove with one glove hand, grasp the other glove and fall remove glove, slips finger from ungloved hand underneath cuff of remaining glove at wrist and removes glove turning it inside out as it is removed.
Right. Here's what the National Council was trying to stop. Some nurses are OR nurses, emergency room, where things happen really fast and you do things a little bit differently. You've seen practitioners that will snatch that gown off and roll those gloves up all in one move. Well, that's fine for practice wherever that is appropriate. But we're teaching down here on the basic level, we're testing on the basic level. So the main thing we want is for them to put the gown on right, put the gloves on right, but put them on separately. And take them off separately. That's why that critical step was put in there, to avoid all that kind of fancy schmancy stuff that some teachers thought, oh, my kids have got to know how to do this, this is cool, you know, and then they go to then they go for testing and they fail. So realize that that's a critical, that we have critical elements there and we didn't before. Something else that's different there that we didn't have before is the gown cannot touch the floor. Read that and tell me what step that's in.
Removing gown holds gown away from body without touching the floor.
Right.
Turns gown inward and keeps it inside out.
Right. We got the inside out thing, but we've never had the floor to deal with before in testing, but we do now. And I'm going to ask for the clarification. Does that include the strings? I haven't asked that yet, but I'm going to ask for that clarification. In my mind, the string is a part of the gown, but just for the sake of clarifying and getting it out there, I will ask and I'll let you know and find out. Okay, so we're just going to unfold a gown, and here again, it's not sterile, but we're going to do our best not to touch what we're not supposed to be touching. And there's several ways to even to do this. And you don't want to touch the outside any more than you have to touch it. I'll do a great job here. Now, I do want to tell you one thing though. If you have trouble, students having trouble that are tying it back here behind their head, you may already be doing this, but they can tie it here. They can tie it up here and put their little bow on it so they can untie it. And this may save them a little time, so that they got a bow that they can untie, and then they can slip it over their head. And that's perfectly acceptable. Just a little tidbit there. And then they want to be sure that they're covered. And if you have an obese student that this is not going to come anywhere close to covering them, for testing purposes it says to cover as much as possible. You see that verbiage in there?
Mm-hmm.
So they might miss that step, but it won't be because they're obese and it doesn't meet. It would be because they've got this kinked over here. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because in the real setting, in the real world, if you really need it covered, what you gonna do? Put on another gown. Put on backwards. You know, that's what we do in the real world. So remember that little tidbit about tying the top. And you can put a bow in that back one back there if you want to, but actually I would just kind of loop it over enough so that it stays, so it's not a big deal to take it off. And put your gloves on. And the gown that Sharon's got here, y'all may have some like them, are really cool because they have cuffs, and it's very easy to see that it's over the cuff. If you have the ones that just has a little piece of elastic, that's fine, but just tell the kids to be sure that they're clearly trying to get that cuff over that piece of elastic. And if it won't stay in there, you know, the evaluator is aware that they're trying to get it to stay. It's just a little bit more difficult for them that has that. Y'all know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
So, in the evaluator, if they haven't already seen the back, they'll ask them to turn around, and so, you turn around. And, now you're gonna take them off. Now this is where we've seen various things going on, but, that first one in the palm, as y'all know,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And should have pulled that down earlier. And drop that in the trash can. Got your bone, wash my hands. And it doesn't matter which one you undo first. That's not the prettiest job I've ever done. And then dispose of it and wash your hands. Okay. So let's go through that and see what things you might want to be careful with.
You don't have to wash your hands after you take the gloves off.
It doesn't say, does it?
Mm-mm.
I do it when I demonstrate just because I always connect taking off my gloves and hand washing. And remind your kids, you can always do more, but you can't do
Less.
less.
Well, it does say after completing skill washes hands.
But
Yeah.
it's got after,
After.
so that
Well,
means
that just-
that
yeah.
this has got to be, if you do it here, then you gotta do it again after you put this down. Good find, good catch. This is a little off the subject, but then again, it's a good thing, good time to talk about this. The core, you know what I'm talking about, Common Core stuff. There really is Common Core stuff for CTE, and we've not gotten into it a whole lot. But I did have a call from a CTE director a little while back, and they said, can you come talk to my teachers about how Common Core relates to nurse aid? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And, you know, when the directors ask you to do something, you do it. And I was happy to do it. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was happy to do it. So I did about 2 days of research
I'll
on
edit
Common
that
Core
out.
stuff. And, how it relates to CTE, and I found something that I thought was really, really cool for us. And that is that with the Common Core, in the reading, in the language part of it, there's one of the indicators or objectives or whatever they call them, I can't remember, that has to do with reading material, understanding what you read from the perspective that it was written in. And I thought, that is a skill, that when you read something, you have to read it with a certain type of context, some kind of contextual framework. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought about our nurse aid skills. With this, right here, they're reading and they're processing and understanding from the perspective of this is a test. When they're looking at curriculum skills that you teach them up here, they're looking from the perspective of this is how you take care of real patients in a real world. These are the real standards for golden level of care. They don't contradict. They don't contradict. They're just a different perspective. But I throw that out because if you get in any Common Core conversations, throw that little tidbit out, that there is a reading thing in there that talks about being able to understand written material and understand that it's written in such a way because it's written from a different perspective. And I thought, man, what a better example than these skills and curriculum skills.